Welcome to the eCom Growth Show. I'm your host, Danan Coleman. I'm the founder of eCom Triage, where we remove negative product reviews for your Amazon account. And interestingly, recently I got 4 reviews removed from my friend's Indeed account. I am the co-founder of Catalog Defender, where we monitor your products and keep track of all the things that are changing that Amazon does and give you an alert with a template to get that handled. And the founder of ecom.events, where we keep track of e-commerce events all over the world. Edward, our guest today, is going to give us a little bit of you got to wait till the end for it, but he's going to give us a little bit of a secret that he's been working on with his government. So welcome to the show, Edward. It's great to have you here.
Danan, it's such a pleasure to be in this show with you today, and thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So before we go into my prepared questions for you, can you tell us a little bit about who you are and what's your history? What's your family history in this space, etc.?
Yeah, a little bit about myself. As you know, my name is Edward, and I am co-founder and CEO of Saudara. I'll tell you a little bit more about Saudara in a bit, but a little bit about my background. I grew up in Indonesia, and my family has been in retail, logistics, manufacturing all over Indonesia. My co-founder's family as well, especially in manufacturing for over 50 years. So manufacturing logistics, that's something that I've lived through pretty much my whole life. It's not something I read about in business school.
Right.
Although I actually went to business school, and then after I spent 5 years working for the good old Amazon. I was working in their supply chain division, fulfillment center software, helping sellers and things like that. And all in all, what I found is that sourcing is a nightmare. Brands get burned by Alibaba, they overpay, they don't know who their factories are. They're dealing with factories or traders. They go to China, they go to some places, they don't speak the language, and they don't end up getting great deals. Being from a logistics and manufacturing family, I couldn't stop thinking about it. So I left Amazon and started Saudara. We're an AI native sourcing agency and connect businesses with the world's best factories, starting with our home country of Indonesia. That is where we're starting, but we want to go worldwide. We started in December, and we're backed by Y Combinator, the world's foremost startup accelerator that helped out companies like Airbnb, DoorDash, Reddit. And our mission is to open new revenue opportunities for small to large businesses all over, e-commerce sellers and factories as well.
Cool. I love it. So going along that line, so you spent 5 years inside of Amazon's supply chain where you were actually
Mhm.
the one sourcing products for Amazon's which one was it? Amazon Essentials?
Yes.
Yeah. And so what are the biggest sourcing mistakes that you see sellers making today, and specifically the ones that are
Mhm.
killing margin?
Yeah, that is a really, really good question. So I'll give you 3 different examples for now. These are the 3 things that I think kills margins today. The first one is not counting what your landed cost is. This is very, very true, especially for newer sellers. I am gonna go speak to a factory and then I will ask them what is their price, what is their unit price. And I shop around looking for the best price to quality ratio. And factory A provides a cost of $10 per unit. Say that as my cost, and then I calculate my margin based on that. But that is not
Right.
your real cost, really.
No.
The unit cost, yeah, exactly. You need to think about your FOB costs. You need to think about
Wait,
ocean freight.
hold on. Uh,
Hmm.
let's define FOB. I think we have a fair
Okay.
number of people that even though I'd been sourcing products for a long
Hmm.
time, I always had my factory do it. So I'd actually, for years,
Mm.
I'd never even heard the term FOB. So can you define that for
Okay.
us?
Yeah, FOB is free on board. So what that means is the cost of a factory producing your items and then sending it to the port. Once it's loaded into a container, the ownership of the product and everything, all the costs is bared by the buyer. So the factory themselves, they only care about the products up until they get to the port and put it into a container.
Yep. Yeah, thank
Mm.
you. Okay, good. So that's please continue now.
Yeah. For a lot of sellers, they think about their FOB costs. They don't think about ocean freight. They don't think about duties, the receiving of their 3PL. And then what American companies especially don't think about are defect rates.
Oh,
So
yeah.
you order 1,000 units and then 10% of them are defective. What are you going to
Yep,
do with it? So
yep.
we need to think about all of these when we calculate our costs. It's not just an FOB cost. You ship from Vietnam, it's cheaper, but the shipping is higher defect rates. Then all in all, your costs are higher. So you need to think about your all-in landed costs. And a lot of companies don't think about that. Those are especially new companies. As you scale, what kills people are factory loyalty and working with a single supplier. Loyalty is important. However, as you scale, you do not want to depend on just one supplier. And especially, you don't want them to know that you're depending on just them. That
Yeah,
is where you start losing your negotiation power. You can't
yeah,
bargain with them. And if anything happens to your one factory, say 30%, 40% of their employees don't come back after Chinese New Year holiday, or a fire happens in the factory for whatever reason, and you only have that one factory, it's gonna take you months to find a new factory. It's gonna screw up your year. You're gonna miss Black Friday. You're gonna miss peak season, and that is an issue I see with many buyers who are trying to scale and trying not to find new factories because at the end of the day, it's tough to find factories.
yep. Yeah, well, I mean, let's qualify that. It's easy to find factories.
Yes,
It's tough to
it's
find
hard to
good
find.
factories.
Hmm.
Yeah, they
Exactly.
say the same thing about employees and love, you know?
Hmm.
There's women everywhere, but it's tough to find the right one to love, you know?
Oh yeah, most definitely. It's easy to find factories everywhere. They are Half of them that you find are probably traders.
Yep,
Half of them are just gonna say yes to whatever you say because it is a culture in Asia that it is rude to say no and then just
yeah,
not deliver or
yeah,
just ghost you in the middle of the line and then you waste your time.
yep, yep. All right, cool. So next question is this. For e-com sellers who decide to go factory direct and cut out the agencies or the sourcing agents and
Mhm.
then manage their own relationships, what's it actually take to do that well?
First of all, even though I am an agency, I would say that and qualify this by saying that for some people, for some companies, it might actually make sense to go factory direct, cut out the middleman and go factory direct. Operational costs, as especially as you start, your operational cost is probably low. You're making as minimal amount of units. But for companies that are scaling, and when you want to cut out middlemen, what you need to understand and for you to do it well is you need to understand the burden of it. The first is the time zone reality. You need to be willing to work in the evening. These factories in Asia work 12 hours ahead of time of you, 14, 15 hours.
Mhm.
WhatsApping, WeChat on midnight, you need to be comfortable with it, or you need to have a team member who's right here comfortable with it. The quality issues, the shipment delays, the questions about payments are not going to come up on our working hours. It's going to come up on their working hours.
Right.
And as you create and as you scale, these will become very hard to manage. This will become a full time position. One factory is fine, two is probably manageable, but you start working with four, five, six factories, you start scaling to 8 figures, 9 figures. That is going to be a nightmare.
Yeah.
Reaching out, you need to be able to be super strict with reaching out, coordinating with factories on top of doing what you're already working on. And what's going to be really important as you scale when going factory direct is to understand contracting. This is something that is often misunderstood.
All right, so I'd like to dive into that a little bit. So for e-com sellers, why is it important? What is contracting and why is it important?
Mhm. For ecom sellers, what is contracting? especially as you scale, is having a deal with a factory. Understand who owns what when things go wrong. If there are, especially if you're selling e-commerce in the fashion space, or you have, or many sellers on TikTok right now, when it's based on virality and speed. You see something go viral on TikTok, you want to start selling it. Speed is of the utmost importance. So
Hmm.
you buy something, you think it's going to be delivered in 1 month and a half, but somehow there's a delay somewhere. Who is going to pay? Is the factory going to pay for the delay? Because if you don't get your items within a month and a half, the virality portion of it has gone down on TikTok, and then now you're stuck with a lot of stuff that you can't sell anymore. So
Yeah.
those are things like that. People think about payment terms. Another one is a payment terms. Contract on payment terms is really, really important. A lot of e-com sellers think that payment terms are a given, especially newer ones. Okay, it's just a way of doing business. I need to pay 30% ahead of time. However, you can speak with factories and then, or speak with sourcing agents like us, and we can help you negotiate with factories. We've built relationships with factories, and they know that we vet our factories, we vet our customers, and when we come to them with negotiating payment terms, they are usually more appreciative, and you can get better deals.
Yeah. I've
So
got a buddy that he went out to his factory and he was hoping to negotiate terms of 4 months. Like, usually, especially if you're fairly new and small, you can say, "Okay, I want a net 30, a net
mhm,
45, a net 60," something like that, and that starts from the day that they start manufacturing, right? Normally,
mhm,
if you get started, you don't know any better, you wire them 30% right off the bat, so you're out that cash flow, right? And
mhm,
then the next version would be like, "Hey, I'll give you 30% when it's ready to hit a ship," right?
mhm,
And then you get net 30 terms, like, "Cool, you start production, I don't pay you for 30 days, so it's already on the boat on its way,"
mhm.
right? And, or here, and you've already checked it in, and then you pay, right? So, he got 6 months with his
Wow.
factory. Yeah, 6 freaking months. That means that for cash flow purposes, for those of you that aren't super familiar with this process, for cash flow purposes, he says, "I need inventory." They go make it, they ship it, he checks it in, it's already selling, probably for let's call it 3 plus months. That
Mhm.
inventory has been selling before he has to pay the full price.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's freaking absolutely that's the most crazy
Uh-huh.
one that I've heard of in my
Mhm.
community of friends.
Yeah, that's amazing. And that really means you're financing your growth, because a lot of the times the bottleneck of growing is cash flow. You can't pay the factory enough. Okay, maybe you have a lot of sales. However, you can't pay the factory enough to make 10x of what you're asking for. So that being able to do things like that is amazing. What I wonder, however, as well, is in situations like this, it's always important to work with the factory and know that, have a good relationship with them, and make sure that when you have a long payment terms, you're not only pushing things down their throat. And when a bigger company comes in and say, okay, I need to do something in 2 months, and my payment terms is a little better, 30 days. They're not just gonna push your order down the priority ladder.
Yeah, makes sense. Alright, so here's the next question. So, a lot of the audience here has either uses or has used Alibaba, and a
Hmm.
lot of them have been burned. I happen to be one of those.
Hmm.
What's a smart way to vet new factories in 2026?
Yeah, a lot of the smart ways to vet new factories in 2026 have been really the classic, especially if you go through Alibaba. When you come to us, I'm going to give 3 green flags and 3 red flags of a factory. First, you got to make sure that you ask questions to the factories. If you give them something, a tech pack, a design, and they just say yes to everything, that's probably not a good sign. That's probably not a good sign. A lot of the times, they just say yes to everything because they're probably not going to give you what you're asking for. What they're trying to do is to offload whatever it is that they already have pre-made and just sell it to you and then figure out something else later on. They're just trying to do it transactional. Second is if they won't share their factory address or they won't let you visit. Most factories that I know that I work with, if they're a real factory and they're good quality, they're proud of their factory. They want to show off their machines made in
Yeah,
Germany or wherever. They
yeah,
think it's a competitive advantage for them. And finally, if the price is too low, sometimes it's just too good to be true. If everyone is selling things at $20 per and they're selling things at $5 per, that's probably too good to be true. And three things that good factories do, they ask you questions. They ask you questions about what packaging looks like. Are there any possibility, what is your margin of error looks like? And then they push back on specs that are bad specs to begin with and counterintuitive. A good factory is a partner. They can tell you when what you're asking for might not make sense. And for instance, we have a person who tried to build a a woman pajama with a specific kind of material.
hmm,
However, I believe it was tensile material, but it was a specific material. A good factory would tell them, hey, this material doesn't work because it's very translucent and it's going to be see-through and you can't wear it outside. So
mm.
those are like some kind of examples of what good factories do. Also, we can use AI and technology right now. If a factory say they have a certain certification, go look into their certification, like ISO certification websites. Are they
Yeah,
actually ISO certified? Are they actually SEDEX certified? If they say they sell to Walmart or they say they sell to Nike, go to ImportYeti. Use AI to hit ImportYeti APIs and figure out, okay, are they actually look into bill of ladings as well? Are they actually shipping to America at the volume that a company like Walmart
you
is
you
doing?
just gave a little tip there that I'd like
Mm-hmm.
you to expand on. So you're saying use AI and hook up to import Yeti's APIs.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a little SOP on that, or should I just look up? Because that's interesting to me.
Mm-hmm.
I've never done that. Should I just look up how to do that?
Yeah, so what you can do right now is there are a lot of different companies like this. I'm just name dropping Import Yeti, but Import Yeti, Import Genius, Pajifa, they all have APIs that you can hit to. And right now, even if you're not technical, you can go to Cloud Code and say, hit me up to Import Yeti, Import Genius's API and say, hey, build me something to see who imported what. And Cloud Code will just build it for you. It will give you instructions. It will ask you to
Yeah,
get API keys and those
yeah,
good things. But just go to Cloud Code and then say in plain English exactly what you want. And Cloud Code will do it for you.
love it. All right, cool. We're not. This is not an AI class, so we're not going to dive
Okay.
down into that. But maybe we should do a little follow up video on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you wanna maybe do that?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, sweet. All right, so look in the future for a follow up video on this. That's I think that would be pretty slick. I know that it's
Hmm.
very easy to do. It's probably going to be we can probably cut it down to like a 10 to 15-minute video.
Yeah.
But all right, so for people that don't want to source new products, what categories are in Indonesia that they're like world class at, that they're really
Hmm.
known for? And what kind of brands are sourcing there, and what should sellers avoid sourcing? So let's go
Hmm.
with start off with what are the best products to source and what big brands are sourcing.
Hmm. Indonesia is one of the biggest producers of wood furnitures, teak furnitures, rattan. Indonesia has an abundance of that. Any palm oil based products, cosmetics, it's awesome. It's the largest producer of palm oil in the whole wide world. Coffee, vanilla. Indonesia is the second largest exporter of vanilla in the world. So any food-based products requiring vanilla, it's amazing as well. And the classic shoes, apparels, those are amazing in Indonesia as well. And Indonesia, people do not know this, but the biggest brands like UNIQLO, Nike, Adidas, Restoration Hardware, Crate and Barrel, IKEA, they all manufacture in Indonesia. Nike manufactures 20% plus of its shoes in Indonesia. And for a lot of these brands, a lot of companies do not know about it just yet. And it's a big opportunity. Indonesia has the fourth largest population in the whole wide world. And it's going, it has over 70 million people working in manufacturing. So it has an abundance of labor. So when other countries are getting short on manufacturing capacity, manufacturing labor, Indonesia has an abundance of it.
Amazing. And so that leads really well into the next question, which is you're building Saudara to help
Hmm.
ecom brands tap into the supply chain in Indonesia. The big guys have been around doing this for decades, and obviously we just don't really know about that. But
Hmm.
why does Saudara? What does it do? And you know what, folks, we'll do a follow up video, I think, also where we do a deep dive into this because
Hmm.
it's an incredible tool that he's built. But let's go with like what does Saudara do?
Yeah. So we are an AI native sourcing agency to connect businesses in America with factories in Indonesia. So instead of, unlike Alibaba or other sourcing platforms where you come in and you ask questions, you tell them what you want, and then you get connected to factories and then they're hands off pretty much from there. We are a white glove sourcing agency. We come to you, we use AI to speed up the process 10x the speed at a fraction of the cost. So instead of speaking, putting in like a static Google sheet, what you need, we're going to have AI come ask you questions. Hey, I need t-shirt. Okay, what's your quantity? Do you need any specification? What's your order volume looking like for the first order? What is it going to be looking like for the rest of the year? When do you need it? What price target are you looking for? So instead of a static Google form that most people use today, we use AI for it to understand it deeply and have domain knowledge on every single industry. From there, we have an army of AI agents that do not sleep, and they will reach out to factories, manage communications with factories, identify the best ones to get samples from, review your samples, and manage communication. It's a long process. It can take months, and it makes sure that you are always in the loop. So the factory doesn't ghost you for 2 months. It will ask factories what's going on, and then an AI agent will ask you. So there is always going to be right now a human in the loop process because, as you know, sourcing is still a relationship business. There's still human in here where we are still doing QC, we are still to visiting factories, helping them with raw material sourcing, but we're just using AI to really exponentially speed up all the back office process that people hate to do, like asking factories for quotes, following up for quotes, that having
It's
been done this
mind
manually
blowing.
myself. Yeah,
I hate it. I
I
hate it
hate
so
it.
much.
Yep, I hate it so much. And that is something that we're trying to solve and we're automating with AI, the mundane stuff. But
I love
we
it.
want to make sure that the human element is still absolutely there. There is still someone that a buyer or a factory can call at 2 a.m. and there's a team on the ground.
I love it. All right, so we're gonna wrap up this podcast, but before we do, we gave a little hint about something you're working on. You want to tell us what that is?
Yes. So, as part of Saudara, we're working to educate people as well on the Indonesian sourcing ecosystem, Indonesian manufacturing capabilities. And what better way to do that than to bring people straight to Indonesia, meet the best factories in Indonesia? So, what we're doing, and we're partnering with the Indonesian consulate here to explore bringing people to Indonesia. So this is our offer to you. Sign up to Saudara. reach out to me at edward@saudara.ai, and we are bringing 5 businesses to Indonesia, and we'll cover your tickets to Indonesia. It's going to be a whole week, and we're going to bring you to meet some of the best factories that meets your needs. If you're a serious buyer who wants to explore Indonesia and learn more about Indonesia, reach out. We're going to be covering the cost of the flight. There are going to be other people coming in as well, and it's going to be an amazing trip to Indonesia. If you want to visit Bali, you can extend your trip to go visit Bali. I won't be there,
I
but
heard it's a terrible place
I'd
to visit, but
suggest.
I guess some
But
people
yeah,
wanna go
yeah,
there.
I heard it's awful.
Yeah. Well, cool.
Yeah.
So this is amazing. I have another friend, as I told you earlier, in India that
Mm-hmm.
does the same thing, where the Indian government subsidizes this and gets people to come to India for
Mm-hmm.
sourcing. Now, I'm all about this. I won't publicly state it out on the on the podcast, but I told you my experiences with sourcing
Mm-hmm.
with China and my current position on that. And so I love but we've also all you said it earlier, diversifying your
Mm-hmm.
factories is an wonderful thing to do because it's protection of your brand, but also
Mm-hmm.
leverage and negotiating power. So when do you think this is going to become available for people? Like, when do you wanna do this? It's
Mm-hmm.
coming up, yeah?
It's coming up. So we are planning to do 2 trips this year, and we're going to be providing options to people. The first one is going to be late June. And that is
Okay.
going to be our first trip. That is going to be the last week of June. And the big one that I'd really, really love for people to come to, and we're going to be opening it up for more people, is in October, where we are going to have the Trade Expo Indonesia in Jakarta, where every one of the best factories in Indonesia are going to be open in there. And this is an event held by the official governments of Indonesia. They're going to be bringing in factories from all over the country, and would love for you to be there either in June or in October. Think of it as a mini Canton Fair of Indonesia.
Yeah, I'll be there in October, and,
Hmm.
for once this gets maxed out, let's, what Edward and I were discussing is once he maxes out on the number of brands that he can come that are subsidized by the government, perhaps and his company, perhaps what we will do is make our own meetup, again with
Hmm.
Edward though, but make our own meetup where we can get people to come and basically do a group and have some expert local help to go through all those factories and negotiation and stuff like that. So,
Yes.
Edward, this is freaking cool, man. I love what you're doing, and I thank you for coming onto the show, and I'm looking forward to working with you more on the Claude Code video and
Hmm.
on the content of your really big trade show.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Danan. It's been a pleasure.
Love it. All right. Well, listeners, thank you so much for being here. I'll see you on the next episode.